Welcome to our channel. Confucius, the teacher who failed to change the rulers of his own time, yet helped shape the moral and educational life of East Asia for more than 2,000 years. Close your eyes for just a moment. The road is cold beneath your feet. Dust rises around worn sandals. Somewhere beyond the low hills, soldiers are moving. A small state is preparing for another conflict. Farmers watch the road carefully. Travelers speak in quiet voices. You can smell dry earth and wood smoke. The sky is pale at the edges of the hills. China is not one country yet. It is a world of competing states, proud families, old ceremonies, and rulers who fear losing power. And on this road walks an aging teacher. His robe is plain. His face is tired. A few students follow behind him. They have walked for years. They have entered courts and left disappointed. They have waited outside gates that never opened. They have known hunger. They have known danger. Still, the old teacher keeps moving. His name is Confucius. The world will later know him as Confucius. He has no army, no kingdom, no great fortune. And the strange thing is this: the rulers he wants to influence will mostly refuse him. His political dream will never truly come alive while he is living. So, how does a man who cannot persuade the powerful people of his own age become one of the most influential teachers in human history? In this story, you will discover how a poor boy from the state of Lu became a teacher without an ordinary school. You will learn why years of rejection may have shaped his greatest lessons, and you will understand how the loss of a beloved student revealed the deeply human heart beneath the famous philosopher. There is also a deeper idea waiting for you at the end. Sometimes, a life can look unsuccessful from the outside, while its true work is only beginning. So, make yourself comfortable, and let the story begin. More than 2,500 years ago, around 551 BCE, according to tradition, a child was born in the state of Lu. BCE means before the Common Era. It counts years before the calendar most of the world uses today. Lu was a small but culturally important state in what is now the Shandong region of eastern China. The child's family name was Kong. His personal name was Qiu. Later generations would call him Kongzi, meaning Master Kong. The name Confucius came much later, through Latinized forms of his Chinese title. He was born into a world that respected rank, family background, ritual, and social position. But his own childhood did not offer him an easy path into power. Traditional accounts say that his father died when Confucius was very young. His family then lived in reduced circumstances. Reduced circumstances means they had less money and lower social position than before. They were not the poorest people, but they did not belong to the powerful families of their time. We should be careful with many details about his earliest years, because stories around famous people often grow larger with time. But One thing is clear. Confucius did not begin life as a great ruler, a prince, or the son of a powerful court. He had to learn his way upward. As a young man, he became deeply interested in the old traditions of the Zhou world. Zhou, written Zhou, was an ancient Chinese dynasty, a long line of rulers who once held great power over many states. Now, that power was weakening. Confucius studied poetry, music, ceremony, history, proper behavior. The word ritual can sound cold and formal to modern ears, but for Confucius, ritual meant something much more human than empty rules. It meant learning how to behave with care, how to speak at the right time, how to respect the living and remember the dead, how to enter a room without making yourself the center of it. He looked at a divided society and asked a quiet question. What holds people together when fear is not enough? This question stayed with him his entire life. Confucius lived during the spring and autumn period, an age when the old political order was weakening rapidly. Powerful families competed with rulers. States fought for territory and influence. Leaders spoke about tradition while often acting from ambition. Ambition means a strong desire for power, success, or status, not always used wisely. Confucius did not respond to this disorder by dreaming of a stronger weapon. He looked in a different direction. He became interested in character. A ruler, he believed, could not create a good society only by giving orders. A father could not teach respect only by demanding it. A teacher could not form serious students while living carelessly himself. Example mattered. Before becoming famous as a teacher, Confucius appears to have held practical jobs and minor official responsibilities. Later, traditions remembered him managing stores or livestock. Whatever the exact details, his early life was not spent above ordinary work. He knew administration, the practical work of organizing, recording, and managing systems. He knew that grain had to be counted. Animals had to be cared for. Records had to be kept. This matters because his philosophy did not grow only from silence and books. He watched real people. He saw the difference between beautiful words and responsible behavior. Then he made a decision that would shape everything that followed. He began to teach. Education in ancient China was not a modern public system open to everyone. Learning was strongly connected to social status and family position. Confucius became known for gathering students around him and teaching those who were willing to learn, regardless of their background. Later tradition celebrated him as someone who did not limit education to one narrow class of people. His students were different from one another. Some were serious, some were impatient, some were talented speakers, some were brave but reckless. Reckless means acting without thinking carefully about the consequences, often taking unnecessary risks. Confucius did not teach them as identical people. The conversations preserved in the Analects often show him giving different answers to different students asking similar questions. The Analects is the collection of sayings and conversations attributed to Confucius, preserved by his disciples and followers over generations. This is one reason the Analects still feels alive today. Confucius does not appear only as a man standing above a crowd, delivering a perfect speech. We meet him in conversation. A student asks, the teacher answers. Another student makes a mistake. The teacher corrects him, sometimes gently, sometimes sharply. Someone wants a simple rule. Confucius makes the question more difficult. He was trying to form people, not fill containers. At the center of his thought was a powerful idea. A human being could become better through practice. Birth did not have to decide character. A person could learn, reflect, correct a mistake, control selfish desires, become more trustworthy, become more humane. The Chinese term ren is often translated as humanity, humanness, or benevolence. Benevolence means a deep and sincere wish to do good to others. Ren is difficult to capture fully in one English word. It points toward the quality of being truly human in how we relate to other people. Confucius also spoke about lie, proper conduct, and appropriate behavior in daily life. But Li was not simply about bowing correctly at formal occasions. The outer action was meant to train the inner person. Imagine two people performing the same respectful gesture. One person cares deeply. The other only wants to look good. The movement looks the same from the outside. The character is completely different. Confucius cared about that difference. He also believed deeply in learning as a lifelong discipline, not decoration for intelligent people, not something you finish at a certain age. In the Analects, learning never stops. You learn from old texts. You learn from other people. You examine yourself honestly. You notice what is good in someone and try to follow it. You notice what is weak in them and ask whether the same weakness lives in you. Learning becomes a mirror. If you are finding these ideas interesting and you enjoy calm, careful stories that help you grow in English, consider subscribing to Woven English. New stories arrive every week, but Confucius wanted more than a circle of students. He had a political dream. He believed good government could begin with moral leadership. Moral leadership means guiding people through honest example, not only through rules or force. The world around him was divided. He wanted rulers to understand that force alone could not create lasting order. A leader should cultivate virtue. Cultivate means to develop something carefully and patiently over time. The way a farmer cultivates the soil. Officials should serve responsibly. Names and roles should mean something real. A father should behave like a father. A ruler should behave like a ruler. A minister should not use the title of service while secretly serving only himself. At some point, Confucius held a position in the government of Lu, though later accounts sometimes enlarge the details of his political importance. What matters is that he did have direct experience with government. He was not only watching politics from a distance, he hoped to influence public life. But the dream did not last. The state of Lu was divided by powerful competing interests. Court politics were complicated and dangerous. Court means the center of government surrounding a ruler. The officials, advisors, and powerful families who gathered around power. Confucius, eventually, left. He was already an older man by the time he began the long period of travel for which he became famous. For roughly 13 years, according to traditional accounts, he moved through different states with followers, hoping to find a ruler willing to use his ideas seriously. Picture that decision. You are no longer young. Home is behind you. The roads are uncertain. Every court already has advisors. Every ruler already has enemies. Powerful men do not enjoy hearing that power should begin with self-control. Still, Confucius goes, state after state, court after court, conversation after conversation. Sometimes a ruler shows interest. Sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes politics change before ideas can become action. Sometimes Confucius and his students find themselves in difficult or even dangerous conditions. But the pattern is clear. He keeps trying. And this is where the story becomes more interesting. Confucius is often remembered as a symbol of order and stability, but much of his own life was spent inside disorder. He taught stability while moving from place to place. He spoke about proper roles while political roles were breaking down around him. He taught the importance of good government while failing to find the government he had hoped to serve. His philosophy was not produced by success. Much of it was tested by disappointment. Now here is where the story becomes interesting. Imagine the students around him on the road. They are tired. They have followed a teacher who promises no wealth. Some of them could probably build easier lives elsewhere. They watch rulers ignore him. They hear people misunderstand him. They may wonder whether the journey has meaning. And perhaps Confucius wonders too. The Analects does not show us a man who never feels frustration. It shows confidence, humor, disappointment, affection, criticism, sometimes loneliness. He is not presented as a distant and perfect figure. He is a teacher who believes deeply in a way of life and lives long enough to see how difficult that way can be. One of his closest students was Yan Hui, also called Yan Yuan. Confucius admired him greatly. Yan Hui was remembered for his love of learning, his modest life, and his ability to remain content, inwardly satisfied and at peace, even in poverty. Where other students argued or displayed their abilities, Yan Hui became an example of quiet moral effort. Think about why such a student would matter so deeply to an old teacher. Confucius had spent years trying to influence rulers. Most of those attempts had failed. But in Yan Hui, he could see something different. Here was a person genuinely changing from within. Here was proof that teaching could enter a human life, even when it could not enter a palace. Then Yan Hui died. He died before his teacher. The grief preserved in the Analects is one of the most powerful moments in all the stories connected with Confucius. The calm teacher breaks. His sorrow is visible and deep. The man who had spent decades discussing self-control does not become a stone. He mourns openly. This is important. Confucian thought is sometimes misunderstood as a system that asks people to hide every feeling. But ritual and discipline did not mean becoming emotionless. Grief had a place. Love had a place. Loyalty had a place. The question was never whether we feel. The question was how we carry feeling without allowing it to destroy everything around us. For Confucius, Yan Hui was not simply one student among many. He represented hope, and now that hope was gone. There are moments when a person loses something that cannot be replaced. No lesson removes the pain. No philosophy turns death into a small event. You simply learn to walk with a space that was not there before. Confucius continued. That may be one of the quietest lessons of his entire life. Not that wisdom protects you from sorrow, but that sorrow does not always end your work. But the story did not end there. After years of travel, Confucius eventually returned to Lu. He was older now. The great political transformation he had hoped to create had not happened. He had not united China. He had not built a perfect government. He had not become the permanent guide of a ruler who reshaped the age. By the usual measurement of political ambition, the long journey had failed. So he returned to teaching. This return changes the meaning of the whole story. A younger man may believe influence must look large. A title, a palace, a law, a public victory. An older Confucius had something quieter. Students, conversations, texts, memory. He spent his final years teaching and working with the cultural traditions he valued. Later tradition connected him with the transmission of several ancient classics. Transmission means passing something valuable from one person or one generation to the next, carefully, faithfully, without losing it. But we should be careful here. Confucius did not sit down and personally write the Analects as a finished book. The work we know as the Analects grew from sayings, conversations, and memories preserved by disciples and later followers over time. Disciples means devoted students who follow and learn from a teacher closely, often dedicating years of their lives to that relationship. That fact makes his legacy even more human. His voice survived because other people remembered. A question in a room. An answer given on a road. a correction offered to a student, a conversation about government, a moment of grief, a single sentence carried in the mind, then repeated, then written, then studied by another generation. A teacher cannot fully control what survives. He can only teach as honestly as he can. Others decide whether to carry the lesson forward. Around 479 BCE, Confucius died. There was no world empire carrying his name, no final political victory, no moment when every ruler gathered and admitted the old teacher had been right. History rarely gives us endings that clean. He died as a teacher whose greatest ambitions remained incomplete. And then, history began doing something he could not have predicted. His students and intellectual descendants continued the work. The tradition developed. Other thinkers, especially Mencius and Zhou, in the centuries that followed, debated and expanded ideas connected to the Confucian world. Confucian thought was never one frozen voice. It became a long conversation about human nature, education, family, government, duty, and moral growth. During the Han Dynasty, one of the most powerful imperial periods in Chinese history, beginning around 206 BCE, Confucian learning gained a major position in public life. His name and the classical learning associated with him became deeply connected with education and public service. For generations, students studied texts connected to the Confucian tradition in the hope of entering government. The man who could not find the right ruler had become part of the education of rulers. His influence also traveled far beyond China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam. Different societies received these ideas in different ways. Each culture interpreted the tradition through its own history. Confucianism was never simply copied in one identical form everywhere it went. And there was another side. Ideas that teach order can be used by wise people. They can also be used by powerful people who want to keep others in their place. Over the centuries, Confucian language sometimes supported education, responsibility, and ethical government. At other times, rigid interpretation supported hierarchy and restrictions that modern people rightly question. Rigid means too fixed, too unwilling to change, even when change is needed. Hierarchy means a system in which people are placed in levels, with some holding much more power than others. To understand Confucius honestly, we should not simply worship him or reduce him to a simple symbol. We should listen, then question, then think. That, in a strange way, is close to the spirit of learning he valued most. His reputation also changed dramatically in the modern era. During the Cultural Revolution, beginning in 1966, Confucius became a direct target. The Cultural Revolution was a political movement in China aimed at destroying old culture and traditions, led by Chairman Mao Zedong. Sites connected with Confucius suffered attacks. classical texts were condemned. Scholars who taught the tradition were persecuted, punished, humiliated, and sometimes harmed. Persecuted means treated with hostility and cruelty, often because of beliefs or identity. For a time, the teacher, who had represented learning for centuries, was treated as an enemy of progress. Stone can be broken. Books can be burned. Names can be attacked. But ideas are difficult to erase completely. After the Cultural Revolution, interest in Confucius returned in many forms. Scholars studied him again. Cultural institutions restored damaged sites. Public discussions reopened questions about tradition and identity. Today, the temple, cemetery, and Kong family mansion at Khufu, the place most closely associated with his life, form a UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO means the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, a body that protects important places of human history and culture. The physical place where memory gathered around Confucius has survived destruction, rebuilding, political change, and centuries of interpretation. But perhaps the most important monument is not made of stone. It is the question he left behind. What kind of person are you becoming? Not what title do you hold, not how loudly do people praise you, not how quickly did you win. What kind of person are you becoming? This question connects many parts of his teaching. Ren asks how humanely you treat others. Li asks whether your actions create respect even in difficult moments. The ideal of the Junzi asks whether you are developing character rather than merely chasing status. A Junzi is often translated as a noble person or gentleman. But in Confucian thought, the word points toward an ideal shaped entirely by character, not birth. The important difference is this: true nobility is not only inherited, it must be practiced day after day, choice after choice. This may explain why Confucius still speaks to people who do not live in ancient China and do not follow every part of Confucian tradition. We understand the problem he was pointing at. We know what it is like to want the world to change before we change ourselves. We know what it is like to criticize leaders while behaving poorly in our own small areas of responsibility. We know what it is like to want respect without practicing respect. Confucius turns the mirror around. Before asking whether the whole world is in order, look at your own actions. Character is political too. A peaceful society cannot be built only by writing the word peace on a wall. People must practice something. And perhaps his greatest failure opened the door to his greatest influence. Had he become the permanent advisor to one successful ruler, history might remember him as an important minister of one state, because he kept teaching, wandering, questioning, and forming students. His work became harder to contain. The road that looked like rejection became the road of transmission. The classroom that had no walls became larger than a kingdom. When we look back at Confucius now, we see an old teacher walking home after years of disappointment. We see the empty place where Yan Hui once sat. We see quiet students preserving words after their master is gone. 3 images, no army, no victory. And yet, perhaps his deepest question still reaches across the centuries. When the world refuses to become better as quickly as you hoped, will you stop trying to become better yourself? Your journey in English may also feel slow from day to day. But small, repeated practice changes the person who practices. A word becomes a sentence. A sentence becomes understanding. Understanding opens a door that was not there before. Confucius kept walking when he could not see where the road would lead. Perhaps that is enough of a reason to keep going. Tell me in the comments, which part of Confucius's journey stayed with you the most? The young man studying old traditions without wealth or power, the aging teacher walking from state to state while rulers turned him away, or the quiet grief after losing Yan Hui. If calm stories like this one help your English grow, please subscribe to Woven English. New stories are waiting for you every week. Thank you for listening. Until our next story, we will meet again here at Woven English.